Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. We are going to be talking about perfectionism. Perfectionism has always been understood as a positive trait, and we often compliment people as how you're quite a perfectionist. However, we need to understand this concept a little bit more so that we can be a bit more compassionate towards our own efforts. Let's closely understand perfectionism. Yes, the meaning simply says that your work is of good quality and the output is really up to the mark. However, there are people who display tendency of over-perfectionism, which means that their work may be really seriously delayed and they may get into an over-critical and over-analytical mode, trying to explore each and every smaller, minutest detail of their work and trying to correct them to the point that the overall submission might really be wrecked. Some people may identify these tendencies in themselves, and I'm really hoping to be able to reach out to you so that you can get the necessary help for the same. One of the first ways in which we can work on managing our tendencies to be over perfectionist would be to be aware of this. Yes, do reflect on your overall professional behavior, your work behavior, your personal life, and understand if you've ever received a feedback of being too perfectionist. When someone is saying that you're too much of a perfectionist, be sure that you spend some time understanding whether this feedback has a positive or a negative connotation. Yes, of course, you may be referred as a perfectionist if your work is always up to the mark. However, you also need to look out for those negative connotations wherein a person may implying that you're spending too much time on too much irrelevant things. And yes, understanding and identifying them will go a long way in helping you to correct your behavior as you move forward. Do not forget to acknowledge that you may be having a problem. It is important that you spend some time reflecting on the feedback you receive, as well as also reflect back on your own exhaustion towards the work you do. Well, if you're feeling exhausted all the time, if you're always struggling to keep up with your work tasks, then maybe it's time to check whether or not you may be having a problem. And if you do, self-awareness is the first step towards helping yourself. The second step would be to have more realistic standards. Yes, set realistic goals, understand what is expected of you, and also make sure that you spend enough number of time discussing what is expected of you from the other people, getting a general opinion from public as to what is expected as an ideal good work. Once you have really spent time understanding your expectations and understanding what is the goal of the projects given to you, then it won't take long for us to set realistic standards of what is possible and what should we be focusing on. I understand that reaching out to people and discussing may not be everybody's cup of tea, but where it helps is wherein maybe sometimes spend too much time trying to understand something that may be much more simpler, and the expectation that other people hold of you may be of something simpler than what you had planned. The next step would be to challenge negative self-talk. Perfectionist tendencies are usually a result of perhaps lower self-esteem. So if you are highly critical of yourself and set really high standards for work, that may mean that you're making yourself miserable over something that need not be that important. Negative self-talk may have become somewhat of a habit, and therefore breaking them may be really difficult for some of us. However, it is very important that you identify these tendencies, as knowing and identifying and acknowledging your self-critical attitude will help you to move away from the same. The next step would be focusing on progress. People who are over perfectionists may get into the habit of being stuck at different positions. You spend hours and hours laboriously focusing on something that may be very irrelevant and not necessarily need that sort of attention. So one of the ways in which you can move away from this would be by strategizing and focusing on the progress. Maybe it's a good idea for you to set like a timeline as to how long you should be spending on certain aspects of the project and checking in periodically to see the progress if you've moved forward. If you've not, then it's a good time for us to sort of encourage ourselves to move past the stage that we are stuck in. The next step, and a really important one, is celebrate your imperfection. There is a level of discomfort associated with not being perfect. There is some sort of a negative connotation associated with imperfection and mistakes. One of the ways in which you can break free from an imperfectionist attitude would be to acknowledge your mistakes and be okay with some of the flaws that you've got. I'm not saying give up on a big mistake that you made in your work. No, don't do that. Keep working hard. But at the same time, if there are some flaws here and there, then maybe it's a good idea to acknowledge them, accept them, and move past it. You need not really correct every single thing that goes wrong according to you, because perhaps your standards may be too high and these mistakes may not even be noticeable to other people. Embrace these mistakes. Maybe check up with other people and see if they notice them too. And if not, then it's time that we understand that being stuck in this space is something that we need to get away from rather than correcting our mistakes. So yes, really focus on embracing your imperfection and celebrate whatever smaller mistakes here and there, as these are perhaps a reflection of you moving forward in the game. The next important step in working around imperfection would be embracing self-compassion. I've spoken in many videos about what self-compassion is. It's the attitude of being kinder to yourself, being empathetic to your own limitations and strengths, and working through life while keeping a very non-critical, accepting mindset towards ourselves. Self-acceptance and being able to embrace yourself with kindness despite whatever flaws or weaknesses you may have is the way in which you can really break free from an over-perfectionist attitude, because being perfectionist involves being extremely self-critical around yourself, and once you learn to be kinder to yourself, the entire cycle breaks on its own. The idea is that we start with kindness and we start acknowledging some of the mistakes we make, and along the way we start developing this alternative narrative where we say that yeah, I made a mistake and it's okay. Is it that relevant? If not, let's move on and look at the other progress. So this way you will be able to map through your journey without being too harsh and inadvertently falling into the trap of over-perfection. Due to our own life experiences and maybe overcritical nature of our environment, we may have fallen into the stage where we are being too harsh and critical of ourselves. Identifying it and working through it will go a long way in helping you take a breather and be more relaxed in terms of your work. Your work output and the quality of your work would really be enhanced once you're able to work in a more relaxed manner, and therefore follow these steps in order to be able to break from any inadvertent patterns that you may have fallen into. I hope this is useful. Thank you so much. Do not forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel for more such videos, and if you have any video suggestions, feel free to comment below. Thank you.